Hey everyone, welcome. It's Angela Love Zarenka with Lactation Education Resources, joined by the wonderful Nikki Killings and Nikki Hunter Greenaway. Our topic for today is allies, advocates, and activists, equity in lactation.
Hello, everyone.
Here we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to episode, I don't know.
I don't know, but to many.
One of many. Listen, we're happy that y'all are with us today. It's been a day already. Nikki and I will confess going in that it has been interesting. And you find us in a rare form. We may be more frank than usual. We may be, who knows what's going to happen in today's episode. I don't know. I love your shirt, by the way, Nikki. If y'all can't see
Thank
it,
you. Thank
you're
you.
missing out. It is awesome. All right, let's start with intros. I am Nikki Killings, Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging at LER. Shout out to LER, whose generosity makes this episode possible today and all episodes, by the way. I'm also a private practice lactation consultant and equity strategist. Woo! All that to say, this is my jam, and I can't wait to talk about this stuff with y'all today. I am joined by my co-good troublemaker and Nikki Lactation career consultant, Nikki Hunter Greenaway.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nikki Hunter Greenaway, also known as Nurse Nikki. I'm a family nurse practitioner, a lactation consultant, and I work in private practice in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm excited to talk about this today. We had a very lively Marco Polo this morning, Nikisha and I, and we're really excited about it. And we want to be frank and respectful and give you the gems and tokens that you need to be an ally, advocate, or activist. I'm on my iPad today and I feel like really weird and out of place because my computer decided to do an update the moment I logged on. So if you see me just looking off, it's just because my camera's just not right, because that is today. That is what is happening this Wednesday.
Listen, woo, y'all. All right, shall we check in?
Yes,
We should check
go
in.
forth. Mm-hmm.
I am doing. My family and I have taken a little bit of downtime this week. The children are on break from school, and so we are just trying to enjoy the moments as they come, those moments that are restful and allow us to step away from the work for a moment. And that's been really, really good for us as a family. We appreciate that time. It hasn't been every day, but it has been helpful nonetheless. So we're okay in that way. We're excited that more and more folks are getting vaccinated, so we feel empowered to go out into the world with a little less fear and a little more enjoyment in activities. And we are at the same time carrying the very heavy weight of social injustice, racial injustice, inequities in our nation and beyond. And so it is not unlike any other week, an interesting, bittersweet mix of realities at once. That's how we are. How are you?
I am doing also. I try and start every day with a smile and joy, and then something just come and snatch away. If we're just being real. And that's kind of how it's been happening every day. But we are blessed, and we have all that we need and all that we desire. So yes, we are doing also. And we want to hear how y'all are doing. If you're just doing, or if you're doing well, you're doing fine and dandy, you're doing excellent. We want to hear about it and tell us where you are joining us from. We love to hear all the different places that we hit, and all the nooks and crannies of the world.
Yeah, it matters to us. It matters to us. We always want this to be a conversation and not a lecture. And so we want to hear from you and know how you're doing and know if you're okay and if you are not okay. That's really important to us. And to know that sometimes we're not okay either. So we share this journey together. Today's talk is going to be an interesting one. This is not our first. This is quarterly, sort of like we do quarterly how to become an IBCLC, each time with a little bit of a different lens. We're doing a quarterly equity check-in to make sure that we share some interesting approaches. We've talked about fat bias, that's an equity issue. We talked about LGBTQIA2 plus S, or 2S plus. That also is an equity issue, how to support those communities. We've talked about racial bias as well, racial inequities. All of those things matter. And all of those things cover different aspects of equity. Today, we're talking about what you can do as a practitioner to make sure your practice is representative of where you are and what you want to provide. And so we have this terminology I got from my dear friend, Nikki here. I mean, is it your, have you coined this? Is this your terminology?
No, you know, I don't.
Oh.
I just like the groups. Like I like the,
But did you come up with it?
Oh yeah, the thing, yeah, I came up with it. Oh, okay.
She hasn't officially made it hers, but y'all don't y'all go get it either. Don't y'all trademark it, she don't do that. Anyway, the three categories are allies, advocates, and activists. Ooh, I just had a Zoom training. I think I did that backwards. Is this the right way for y'all? Anyway.
It flips it.
This is, here we go. Yeah, allies, activists, and advocates. Anyway, there is a spectrum. There is a scale, if you will. And of course, there's also an area far below allies that is doing nothing or doing the opposite of equity. We won't speak of either of those today. We'll start at allyship. What does allyship look like in a lactation supporter in practice? Actually, Angela, are there any check-ins from the folks who are watching, listening before we jump fully into the topic? I want to make sure I acknowledge.
So yes, we have, excuse me, a shout out from the Bronx in New York. Actually, I'm having just a little bit of a tech issue. What's happening with you must be contagious, Nikki. We've got somebody here from Virginia. We've got Rochester, New York. Someone says that they're doing well after their meeting with their therapist today.
Hey,
Ooh,
beautiful
honey,
thing.
therapy works.
Another person from Lebanon, New Jersey, feeling frustrated today for how the team members spoke untruths about Black women like it was a fact. Tired of people not doing the self-work to address their racist ideas, especially when they work assisting in that group.
We can relate. We can relate. Yeah.
So have shout outs from Bend, Oregon, London in the UK, Moyock, North Carolina, Omaha, Northeast DC, hello, Columbus, Ohio, Phoenix, Arizona, Georgia, another one from DC, another person from Oregon. Someone is feeling like they're having a full moon hangover, Southern Oregon, and feeling excited and overwhelmed from Ontario. By the way, the exam is coming up in is happening at this.
It's happening. We're in the window. Shout out to all those who are taking it, have taken it, are on pins and needles about taking it. We have been there. We understand. But you got this. And as well, a brilliant lactation consultant who is on the call but not seen today said just yesterday, I think 85% of folks who take the exam pass it. I heard that in a live that she did. And I think that's really comforting. I think that should be really comforting to those of you who are out there stressing about it, that chances are really good that you will have passed the exam. Nikki, you froze there for a second.
Oh, I did. Oh, I'm sorry.
With technical challenges.
Maybe if I could switch over to my laptop and get my life together.
She's going to come in through that. Thank you for sharing that. Shout out to Angela also for getting those pronunciations. I was born in North Carolina and I've never heard of Moyak, and I bet I would not have pronounced that right when I saw that. So shout out to Angela for that. That was awesome. You did great. Yeah, somebody mentioned it. Somebody talked about what it looks like to not get this stuff right in their check-in, and so let's jump into it. The level that we talked about first is allyship. I feel like we're going to need an infographic about this, Nikki. Note to us. The first level is allyship, and that I would offer is where the majority of lactation supporters exist, who are interested in this work, who are interested in equity. Those who are not don't exist on the spectrum at all. But most are supportive of the ideas of equity They understand its importance. They stand alongside. They may like and share posts from their friends who are a little bit higher along in the spectrum there. They are further along. They may have put a black square up, on their social media to represent. They support Black Lives Matter or Black Lives at some point. They may be, trying to use a little inclusive language, maybe. But again, it's mostly a supportive role, and it is from a well-meaning. She'll be back. It is from a well-meaning place. It is a place of good intention. It is not the most active place to be in the fight for equity for all, but it certainly is better than being no place at all. And it is showing up to say, I support you, I'm here for you, I will share, like, support, show up at stuff for you. I will join, maybe even join the fray and comments on social media and things with you, maybe. But there's an interest there in trying to get this right and understand what more can be done. How else would you describe allyship, Nikki?
That's exactly how I would describe allyship. You recognize, I think the allies recognize that there's a problem, right? Recognize that there is something inherently wrong with the system in which we're all trying to function in together, and that some folks may have more of an advantage than others. I think there's a recognition there. Yeah, the folks that don't recognize it, they don't. I wouldn't consider them an ally. So I think the recognition is there, like you said, with the black square. I think you want to do. There's a, like you have with each, and as I was telling you, with each incident, with each death, with each situation that we have where we talk about racial justice and racial injustices and all these things, this person that is an ally, they have something in them that says, I need to be doing something.
Yes.
I need to be doing something else. And they may not know how to make that bridge over to advocacy. And they may want to ask questions, but they like, I don't know who to ask. Or they just don't know where to go from there.
Yeah. There is a phrase you might have heard that I use periodically. It's called performative allyship. You should be aware of that and constantly self-checking for that. If you identify as an ally, and we want to hear from you if you do, if you're saying, okay, this is kind of me, speak up in the comments. You can do so anonymously. We want to hear from you and hear about what your experiences are as an ally. Mm-hmm. But sometimes folks show up as allies, but aren't necessarily convinced about the need for this work. They just think maybe this is the right thing to do. Maybe I should put a black square up. But when it gets into the thick of it, when the discussion goes a little deep, they start to show themselves as not really invested or not really understanding the need for this, right? And the value for seeking equity for all. And so we call that performative because they're doing they got the mask on, they're performing in the show, but they're not really invested in it. They're not really consciously truthfully believing in the need for this work and actually getting it done. This is often seen by derailing or deflecting in conversations. I see this a lot in what is called tone policing. And so there may be a discussion about, racial equity, gender expansion, sexual equity, all sorts of things. There may be a conversation about equity in general for folks who are marginalized or considered to not be a dominant group. And someone will all of a sudden say, we should use nicer words. This is you being mean. That type of deflecting, that type of tone policing is a key indicator that they're not a true ally. They have not yet totally come over into the realm of wanting to do the work. They are here showing up because it feels like the right thing to do. It looks like the right thing to do.
Right. And I do want to preface this as we're not trying to call anybody out on this directly. We're not speaking about anybody directly, and these are our own thoughts and feelings. All right.
Yeah.
One of the things that the examples that I can come up with is I've seen in some of the Facebook groups of lactation, the whole idea of some folks just don't like the word chest feeding. And we keep going back and forth. And they're like, I don't understand. Folks, this is what it is. Like, we're going to use breastfeeding and we're going to use chest feeding. and folks just don't understand. They're like, I don't understand why we have to do that. I don't understand why I have to do that. I don't see anyone, or no one in my practice knows what chest feeding is. I don't see clients that would use the word chest feeding, and that's on the cusp of not being an ally.
It really is. It really is.
So we have to think about our language. And then Angela, you had there are some y'all questions. So performative, how do we know if someone is a performative ally? And my definition of performative allyship is that you put up that black square on your Instagram or your Facebook page and you haven't done nothing else. And you say, well, I see Black clients, or something like that, but you haven't, like, you're not, and you see that there's a problem, but you put it up. Like, I can look on pages, and if you put it, and mind you, you don't have to show everything, but I feel like you should be doing something else in the community with the allyship that you have. Like, something should be done. Just sitting with it doesn't really help anyone. Thinking about it, if it's all in your head, that's not really helping. Or you say, I'm sorry, or that sucks, or that's not helpful. But I can speak from the fact of social media. If as people put themselves, you have thousands and thousands of followers, and this is what you do. You put everything on social media, and you have that one black square, and there's no, pictures of you working with Black and brown folks. You're not talking about the issues. You're not putting knowledge to action. No, that's performative. You did that because everyone else did, and you didn't want anybody to say nothing because you didn't have it up there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The definition of an ally, I think, is probably most well known in politics, in war, those types of setting. And it talks about someone utilizing their power to come alongside another group, nation, to say, I stand with you. I am willing to show a show of force alongside you to help you in this fight. I'm willing to stand next to you, in front of you, if necessary, to take the brunt of this. What that looks like in real allyship that's not performative is actually putting some action behind the words. It is showing up to support. It is generally from a group that is not marginalized, a person who stands in a position of power and privilege, saying, hey, y'all, listen, this is real. Hey, y'all, take a look at this issue. This is real. Hey, y'all, this is what we need to be. This is how we can be leading, how we can be doing something different. You're not necessarily an advocate, and we'll talk about what that looks like differently next, but you are using your power to shed light on an issue and to stand in the gap to help to strengthen, buttress, support those who would need the support, who would need a voice, who would need to be understood. This looks like if you are called to speak at a conference and you are from all the major group, all the dominant groups, that you ask, hey, are all the other speakers paid the same as I am? or show me who else is presenting at this conference. Why isn't there a more diverse lineup? Why isn't there someone from this community speaking on this topic? Yeah, I can talk about this, but what about, or giving up your seat for someone else? These are actual deeds, actual actions you can take to help someone who would not normally have had a platform, a voice, a place to speak, to actually get their foot in the door. Does that sound right to you, Nikki?
Yes, it does. And I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And I think it was last year with the Academy Awards. It's not with lactation. I've seen it happen in lactation, but and it kind of caught everyone's eye, was with a category, and they're like, I actually know a Black person that did something that should be in this category. They're like, we don't even want to be nominated because we know that this category should have at least 2 Black folks in it, and it's not. So scratch my nomination, I'm good. And that's what that looks like.
That's a great point. That I saw that in there was a, I don't know if it was the same thing, but there was a children's music category.
Yes, it was
that ended up being all white groups. And interestingly enough, a number of the white male groups said, wait a minute, there were some fantastic Black marginalized community children's songs that came out this year, children's albums that came out this year. Why was none of them nominated? And they decided to step down and not to relinquish, I guess, their nomination, to decline the nomination, to make room for others. However, there were a few groups, coincidentally maybe, that were white women, artists who were also nominated, who said, we get that, that sounds really great, but we, are not going to give up our nomination. Yeah. And so that's 2 different ways that this topic could have been approached. I'm not saying they had to give up their nomination or decline it, but it certainly was a show of true allyship instead of just performative. Because what the other groups did, what they said in their defense was, we're women, so we're a marginalized group too. So we don't feel like we should have to give up anything for the people of color whose music was fantastic this year, who should have been nominated. We don't feel like we're also a marginalized group in this. So we're good. We're going to keep our nomination. In the face of true allyship, that performative allyship then became a little bit more glaring, is an example. And you may or may not agree with that scenario, but it certainly is an example. In another space that I find myself in, there's conversations right now around inclusive language. And lots of us share this, are having these conversations. Nikki alluded to it a little bit earlier, where we're saying to use more inclusive language. And what that, simply means is more words, not less, not less. It does not mean you need to remove mother or breastfeeding from all of your materials. Excuse me, get a little choked up. But it does mean adding more words, adding more inclusive language. It means also adding in, as we've learned from Savannah Shang, she had that amazing talk with us about inclusive language. Please go back and catch it. It's on YouTube right now. You can access it. What she talked about is adding more words like parents, birthing people, another loving adult, babies, families. You add all this in, then the folks who are listening to you are like, oh, I'm in that number. I identify with that. But if you only use mother and only use breastfeeding, somebody will inevitably say, I don't really identify as a mother. What about me? Do they serve me or not? So we're not talking about erasure. We're not talking about removing words from the lexicon. We're talking about expanding and adding more. Just as those of you who have more than one child have said, I didn't know I could love another human being as much as I love this first one. But oh my God, it's like my heart expanded and I'm able to love more and more people to the same degree. You can expand your vocabulary, and allies do this without fighting about it. You can expand your vocabulary and add more inclusive words without necessarily feeling as if there's some erasure. And performative allies, my point is, performative allies will fight you to the death about you're erasing mothers, and they fight about the language of inclusivity. They fight about what words will be less prominent, what words will be more prominent, and that's a deflection from the true issue, a deflection from the true point. That's an indicator that you have performance versus actuality. Those are allies. Y'all got questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. We're not beating you up if you're an ally today. We love that you have started the journey. We love that you've done some stuff. We love that you're doing work, and it doesn't have to always be public. We don't have to be able to see all the stuff, but it shows up. It shows up, quite frankly, in the work that you do, in the spaces that you surround yourself in, and the way that you show up in those spaces, and the way that you show up for other folks. That's true allyship. But we also believe there's more to be done. There's more to be done. What's the next level, Nikki?
The next level is advocates. The next level is advocates. So you know that there's a problem. You've identified that there's a problem. And at this level, you've come over from that bridge of allyship, and you're like, you know what? I'm about to do something about this problem. Like, I am going to actively do something with this problem. We're going to have some structural change. You're thinking about and you want to learn more. So you're going out seeking more knowledge. You're reading articles. You're not necessarily, here's the thing, we're not asking Black folks to explain the Black experience. We're not here to teach. No. Or, explain, can you explain this to me? Can you explain? That's not, no. But you're actually going out and trying to do the research, trying to do the knowledge, get the knowledge rather, and do the work to become better. Because you've already recognized that there is a problem, and it starts with the privilege that you have of how do I use my privilege to do things, and then you start doing stuff. You advocate for change. You advocate for racial equity. What you got?
Yeah, and it's different, right? You hear that it's different from just saying, you know what? Yeah, I want to be on the side of right. I'm going to go ahead and be a supporter. I'm going to show up as much as I can. I'm going to, use inclusive language, maybe switch up my marketing, my language a little bit. It's saying I'm going to have a dog in this fight. I'm going to put a little sweat equity in. I am going to do some of the work to advocate. We have feedback. It says, thank you. I'm currently getting pushback about adding more words. And I think older people are afraid we're getting rid of the word breastfeeding. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's real. It's a conversation that's been ongoing. I would encourage you that there has always been tricky language around race, and we have figured out how to navigate it. There's always been tricky language around supporting different groups in different ways. And as we continue to move forward in progress and try to expand ourselves, there will always be those who say, this is so uncomfortable for me. I don't like it. You're trying to take something from me. This is pie and we're running out of pieces.
Right. And here's the thing, it ain't yours. Like, it's not, we're not taking anything from anybody. It's just that when we have to dig deep and uproot a whole foundation of what all this stuff was built on, that's going to take work, and it's going to feel uncomfortable because change is uncomfortable. However, it must happen. It must happen. Like, we can't keep going the way that we are. If we look at how many Black IBCOCs we have to white IBCOCs, that has to change, because we know from research that you need having someone that has had your lived experience as a Black person, knows the Black body, things like that, they have better outcomes. So things have to change, but we need folks of privilege to start to realize their power. First, realize that you have privilege. Please.
It's not a dirty word.
It's not a dirty word. We're not saying that it's toxic. We're saying that you realize that you have privilege. We all have some level of privilege, right? But when we're looking at a white person, you have more privilege than others that are not white. Realize that. That's foundation 101, racial equity, racial inequality 101. So once you realize that, and realize the things that you're afforded, the extra knowledge that you're afforded, the resources that you have to then say how I don't actually need all of this, or how can I best serve my community? And it is recognizing your privilege and then using it for the betterment of the entire community.
Indeed, indeed. I think that folks get a little tripped up on this one because they're worried about the how, and worried about stepping out of their comfort zone. Here's the thing about power and privilege. They go hand in hand. And this isn't just about racial equity. This is about all sorts of equity. This is about allowing opportunities for all. And when you step out to do that, there will be feathers ruffled. With this comes a bit of necessary thick skin, and being fully aware of your power. And I said that the preceding part to say that I have power just having been in the field for 10 years. I have power just being, you know, I don't know, more established than some maybe younger or newer folks to the credential. I have power because some of these papers behind me, you know, and so get my directions. There we go. Some of those papers up there give me a little bit more power and privilege than others. And being cis het, if you don't know those terms, I'll break them down for you, gives me a certain level of power. I can use every single one of those pieces of power for good, truly, for advocating for those who don't have those levels of power. So don't think that we're only talking about to a certain group. We're not only talking to white folks, we're not only talking to white women, we're not only talking about folks in a certain income bracket. We're talking about anyone who is part of dominant culture, who is part of a majority. I don't like the majority minority comparison of those terms, but I won't deflect. Anyone who is privileged in any sense has the opportunity to utilize that privilege and power to help to further the lives, the work, the experiences of folks who are underserved. Full stop, full stop. You can do that in many different ways. What does some of that advocacy look like, Nikki? Didn't mean to catch you off guard, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I get so fired up.
A little passionate.
Just a little bit. I just to touch on it, I work in my space, I work with homeless teens. In walking in a space in a homeless shelter, I walk in with a certain level of privilege, and I have to check myself even when I speak and say, all right, y'all, I'm about to go home. Come on now. Like, you have those just certain things, like little things, and we all have to check our privilege. So I think with advocates, you've checked your privilege. You've checked your privilege, and you're like, ooh, let me do a self check before I go out here and try to do the work. Let me do a self check and see what I'm bringing into this environment with this breastfeeding, chest feeding family. Let me see what I'm bringing into this environment of this birthing parent. Let me see what I'm bringing in. What baggage am I bringing in? Am I a Black woman of privilege? Am I a Latina woman of privilege? Am I a white woman of privilege? Am I a white man of privilege? Like, what are you bringing into this space? And advocates have done that self-check because they know that there's a problem. They know that they can bring baggage and influence a situation in a way in which it negatively because of that privilege. And then you start to do the self-work of, we all have these things. How can I use it for the betterment? How can I use it for good? As Nikisha was saying.
Yeah. So advocate often can be amplifying. Allyship sometimes amplifies, and that's very helpful. It's appreciated at any level. But an advocate amplifies, we'll say, with a caption. So it's not just forwarding. I use a lot of social media references, so let me know if you all don't relate. It's not just forwarding a post that someone from an underserved group has made. It is forwarding it with some thoughts of your own. Saying, you know, hey colleagues, hey folks who are privileged like me, this is important. And I call attention to, I amplify the voice of this person because this issue matters and it's impacting lives. Here's how you can support this effort better. Here's some things you can do. Once you read the story and you hear this person's testimony or whatever, this is how you can take action and also advocate for the underserved. And so that's one tiny way, tiny way. Another way is to ask the folks who are marginalized, who are underserved, how can I best support you? What can I do? In addition to showing up, in addition to my presence, what action can I put behind? How can I amplify, activate, or advocate for you? Are there doors that will open for me that are not easily opened for you? How can I help to assist in opening those doors? It could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, and this may be uncomfortable with folks, but it could be sharing some level of transparency. It's also advocacy, right? So if you are getting a certain fee for a certain amount of work, and you share that with folks who are from marginalized groups and say, hey, this is what I've all traditionally been paid to do this level of work. I just want you to know that when you are going after this work so that you can demand the same. That is huge. And we don't talk enough about this kind of stuff. One day I'm gonna do a whole talk on knowing your worth.
Yes.
But I can't know what the work is worth if nobody's ever told me what they may do. I'm out here just guessing.
Right. And hoping that folks are not taking these pennies that other folks are trying to give me. Because if I'm truly an expert in this field and you're saying, we love you, we want you to come and speak, we're amazing, we heard you speak before, can you take $100? What? Is this person over here taking $100?
And we have no
$100?
idea. We have no idea.
We have no idea. I can only assume that they're not.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we have precedent.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
So that is it's important. And how are y'all feeling? I know this is
We should check
heavy.
in.
Please check in. We don't usually do mid check-ins, but this is heavy, and if you don't have anything to say, that's okay. That's okay. You sit with it, because this is, I mean, stuff that we talk about often. I think I talk about it because it does make me upset. It does fuel my passion in what I do. And I don't think we talk about it enough. There are some things I feel like that are taboo, or like, oh, that's going to be uncomfortable. We have to, uncomfortable conversations need to be had in order for change to occur.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I just thought of another. I'll share.
Yes.
So, for example, there's a hypothetical textbook, lactation textbook. Ally reads a textbook and is like, oh man, this is a great textbook. I learned so much from it. They see a post or they catch wind of some folks of color saying there isn't a single brown boob in the whole textbook. The ally says, oh shoot, I missed that. They're right. I'm going to amplify. I'm going to make sure that I stand in support of them. I say, I get you. I understand this. Man, that sucks. That stinks. I wish that weren't the case. What can we do? That's an ally. An advocate says, I'm going to write the publisher. I'm going to tell them this is wrong. I am going to let them know the next time they need to have a little bit better representation in their book, because this is not representative of who is being served by the work, right? An activist does something wholly different. They may create a whole new solution, or they may, start a campaign, a letter writing campaign to get, lots of folks joined on. And we'll talk about advocates, or activists in just a moment. And that's next level. But the difference is, can just really be that clear, supporting, understanding the issue, and then helping to amplify and put a little bit of work into helping to maybe fix the issue, but at the very least amplify the issue and call attention to it, and advocate for change. Let's hear. Do we have feedback yet before we move on to activists? Okay, right. Let me see. My phone's locked up. Too many things coming in. Okay. Also, real quick note. Individuals, just like individuals and organizations and systems can have biases. Individuals, organizations, and systems can be at any level on the spectrum. An organization can be an ally, they can be activists, they can also be advocates. All right. Is starting a business specifically for Black birthing, lactating people, a form of advocacy? Because I saw a problem and want to address it. Is a person an advocate or activist if they joined a group and volunteers? My opinion, Nikki, you may have a different one. My opinion is creating a space specifically to support an underserved group is creating a solution that is activist level. Joining a group and volunteering an existing group and just showing up and putting some some elbow grease in, is advocate level. What do you think, Nikki?
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
This person goes on to say, as a Black woman, I feel guilty for not doing more, even though I started a business and started volunteering. One, sounds like you're doing a lot. You're one person. Two, there's always room to improve. This is not finite. And I think that we often slide between the different levels, depending upon what issue we're addressing. So don't beat yourself up, give yourself grace. It is triggering, but it's a very needed conversation. This is enriching. There's been a lot of trauma happening, and this gives me some hope. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Let's talk about activists. Again, next level. Activists do with the work.
Activists is about that life.
They're leading the work.
And leading the work. And here's my best example of activists. Ben and Jerry's. Okay. Ben and Jerry's is about that life. Ben and Jerry's, they went out there, they are literally cultivating change through policy work and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And they're like, well, this may hurt your business. And they're like, well, Black people are dying. Black and brown people are dying. They're not being treated fairly. That is hurting. That hurts more. That should hurt everyone more. The inequality should hurt everyone more. And they're like, we, in our mission as an organization, that is embedded foundation as to what we're going to do. We're going to continue to amplify. We're going to activate our privilege and use it to cultivate change. Period.
I think that's a fantastic example. They are bold, emboldened. They don't really care if you buy their ice cream or not because they've shown up.
Because it's
on
$8
this side
anyway.
of the political spectrum.
They gonna make money.
What they care about is being on the right side of history. And I think that's really important. I think activists are active in policy shifting. They're active in solution crafting. They're active in pushing change in ways that don't show up at the other levels. USBC, I would call United States Breastfeeding Committee. I would call an activist organization. They are actively involved at the policy level and trying to push forward changes to maternal health equity through breastfeeding policy shifts, and literally getting in front of legislators to make change. What that might look like on a different level, I might say LER is an activist, if I will. Here's why. I'm biased. I'm biased, of course, but LER shows up. I have been, engaged with LER for half of my career in some point or another, clearly, intentionally, specifically for the purpose of making sure they are an equitable organization, that they are reaching communities and showing up in ways that are inclusive. We have ways to go still after all these years. There's great work to be done because it's a process, it's progressing, that we have tons of material that has to be updated. There's reasons, or there's work yet to be done, but the LER is unapologetic, and they are, every day working to be more inclusive in their language, in their imagery, in their offerings. They have whole scholarships that pay for the entire journey toward lactation professionals for African Americans. I can announce today we'll be having a very similar program available for the Latinx community, and on and on and on. We'll continue to expand that project. And so I'm proud to be a part of an organization that shows up as an activist every day. Again, we don't get it right, but we're definitely trying every single day. We want to be Ben and Jerry's and USBC level, next level at some point. You can do the same. We have a powerful question that I want to make sure gets addressed before we go too far. And I know you're not the only person asking that. Here it is. One thing I feel like a struggle with, knowing where the line of allyship is to being considered white savior. Do you have any thoughts? Yeah, I do. So the only level that we talked about so far where you would come in and create a solution, create a way forward, is activism level. So I'll start at the other two. At allyship and advocate level, you are absolutely supporting, amplifying, showing up to help the folks who are already doing the work, the folks from those communities. Full stop. There is no allyship or advocacy without connecting with the folks who are doing the work and putting them forward. I would offer that activism requires the same. I do not want to see a white organization by itself creating a solution without partnering, collaborating, pulling in folks from those communities who are underserved to oversee, advise, impact, inform the work that's being done. If you are here doing it by yourself and you haven't consulted folks from the community, haven't pulled them in, you are dangerously teetering on the savior line.
Yes, I agree. So all of us, I would hope, have some level of cultural competency, right? Cultural congruency is including the community in your efforts to help that community. As Divine would say, nothing is for us without us. So you cannot have a program that is geared towards, I could use my example. I can't have a teen pregnancy program, and if I didn't ask the teens what I should be putting in the program. The same is true for, oh, I want to have a Black Breastfeeding Week project, and there's no Black breastfeeders up in there. Or like, what are the needs of the community? You have to have some input from the community, and it has to be a partnership and not an exploitation of the community where you like get their ideas, you pull it out, you take it and use it, and then there's no compensation, whether financial, acknowledgement, or anything to the community in which you took it from.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
In fact.
And we've had several discussions about that in the birth world, about certain things and ideologies and concepts and how that has been taken from different cultures, repackaged, and then made profit off of. Okay. No one needs saving. We need change. We're not asking, and I can speak as a Black woman, I'm not asking anybody to save me or my family or anybody in my space. I'm asking for change. I'm asking for you to use your privilege to cultivate change and to amplify the voices of the people that are doing the work within the community.
It's huge. Yeah, Nikki, you make a fantastic point. I think that there is a lot to be learned. I neglected to mention our Columbus Day-ish, Indigenous Peoples Day episode that we had with Kimberly Seals-Allers as our guest. She coined the phrase, "The answers are in the community." And that is factual, just like Divine's quote that you just mentioned. Really and truly, you cannot swoop in and do the work without the help of those who are more than the help, without the input of those who are part of that community. Just like we try not to have these conversations without the folks who are the experts. We had the conversation with Savannah Shang because she is from one of the communities in LGBTQIA2S+. She's a member of the community. She can therefore best tell us how to support someone in one of those communities. She can best tell us how to show up and what our activism should look like in a way that's not intrusive, but is indeed authentic and intentional and not performative. That's where you go. The answers are truly with those folks. So you won't be accused of being a white savior, a cishet savior, whatever, privileged middle-class savior, whatever, representing your privileged group, if you were in fact working truly in lockstep with and under the advisement and direction of the folks who know the most, the folks who have experienced it, and they will let you know. If you're a trusted ally, advocate, activist, they'll let you know how best to do this work. Yeah. Okay, question. Can you get that one?
How do you, sorry, don't have my glasses on.
Oh,
How do you recommend reaching out to Black, trans, and other communities and knowing where, get my life, knowing where to start if you do not have personal ties to a group already that you want to help stand up for? Um, I would say in research in your community, there are, spaces or on Facebook. Facebook has become a huge resource, even though a lot of people shy away from social media because of the negative things, but what social media has done is it has brought and shed light on a lot of organizations and groups and community efforts where they can use it and really amplify their mission and their vision. So I'd say use social media for that, to find the communities in which you want to learn more about, grow more about, and amplify their voices.
yeah. A couple of thoughts. I absolutely echo what Nikki has said. There's a few resources out there. For many years, I've had a directory of Black lactation. Of lactation support groups for people of color around this country. That would be a great place to start if you're looking to support folks of color. Nikki and I started a Black lactation supporters directory as well. That's another great place. We have these things linked on our social media. That's another great place to find where folks are that are Black that are doing the work. I would agree. There's likely, more than likely, someone already doing this work in your community whose voice has not been amplified. They're probably small. What is the word? I can't think of the word. Grassroots.
Grassroots. Mm-hmm.
They're probably small, grassroots level, low resourced, and could use someone like you to say, you know what, hey, I just learned of this, or I really want to get more involved in supporting, learning from and about your community and how I can best support your community. What do you suggest? How can I best support you in this time? And I'll bet they'll have a list of answers. I bet they'll have ways that you can. And it may not look anything like what you imagined the answers to be, but for sure, reach out, ask them, and yield to their wisdom. They are the experts of their experiences and of their communities. Full stop. Whew. Y'all okay?
How's everyone? So,
May I comment
yes.
for a moment?
Oh, your voice I was like, who is that?
Surprise.
Oh.
Someone has just typed something very good into the chat. And so instead
Yes.
of passing it along, they say, I think the difference between playing the savior is the mentality that, quote, I will fix the problem, minus the input of those who are truly going through the experiences, end quote. Allies, advocates, and activists attempt to create actual seats at the table and to collaborate with those that are underserved or underrepresented.
Well said. Bravo.
Thank you.
That is factual. Yeah. Thank you for that. Was that you, Angela, or an attendee?
I cannot. It is an attendee. I don't want to share their name without their permission. If they type it in, I will be more than happy to do so. I wish. No, sorry.
Attendee, anonymous attendee, we appreciate your eloquence in summing it all up. That is truly what we wanted to communicate today. And we hope that this information has been helpful. We hope it's been applicable. We hope you're empowered to move further along the spectrum of support for folks who need it, and the spectrum of showing up in various ways. We hope you feel empowered to do so, and we'd love to hear about how you do so. Please talk back to us. You can email us. You can email customer service at LER. They send us the notes. We want to know more about the work that you are doing. And that's it. Unless there's any other questions, we'll hold for a second to make sure, Angela, we haven't missed anything.
So a quick thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, the person who said that, it typed her name in the chat. So it is Kimberly Sharp from the DC Breastfeeding Coalition.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you. You rock, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. We love DC. DC Breastfeeding Coalition is one of LER's community partners, and one of the groups that keeps us honest, along with New Orleans Breastfeeding Center, Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association in Detroit, and a few others. You all keep us honest and keep us in touch with the community to make sure that we're hearing the needs and doing activism right. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, so you want to hear about our next time we'll see you? You want to hear about our next talk?
Yes. Our next talk is on May 12th. And we will talk with Miss Jada out of the ATL, Shawty. And
Jada Metcalf.
We will talk about digital. Are we talking about digital? I don't exactly know the name.
We
I'm
are.
sorry.
We are.
We're talking about
Digital LC. The Digital LC. Yeah.
the digital LC, and just all the different things that you can do. We know we talk about the visit, but what are some of the other little things that you can offer? The different platforms, and all of that jazz. So we're gonna bring that to you. We're gonna bring in the expert for that because she's doing an awesome and amazing job. So look, tune in, register for that, and tune in to see what we're talking about.
That's going to be May the 12th. Tune in to see how you can beef up your digital offerings, how you can best support families through infographics and really cool Instagram posts and all that good stuff that Nikki does amazingly too. She's selling herself short here. She's got a gift for it. But how can you graphically, visually, through the web, through social media and other web platforms, how can you visually support families? How can you inform and educate? And also draw those families to you for consults? How do you do it all? We can't wait to talk about it with Jada Metcalf in Atlanta from Milk and Honey.
Look at honey.
Milk and, I love that name. Y'all will see how
It's
she brands
awesome. Her graphics are amazing.
everything, everything through and through. She's brilliant, and we can't wait to have her to talk to you all next time. That's May the 12th. Until then, stay safe, y'all. Stay safe.
And stay sane.
Sanitized and what?
Stay sane.
Try.
Try. All right, y'all. Bye.
Love y'all. Be safe out there. Be good.